Alright, so I think this is recording. I figured out why my thing was shaking on that last video. My wireless tablet was losing its charge, but I've got it plugged in now, so it should be okay. Alright, so we have a quadratic inequality. We know it's quadratic because the largest exponent's 2. I like to work with a leading coefficient that is positive, so I'm going to multiply everybody by -1. It's still kind of shaking a little bit. When I multiply everything by a -1, the arrow changes direction. And now let's see if we can factor this. Maybe we can. Maybe if we can't, like the previous two problems, we can use the quadratic formula. 2 times 7 is 14. 8x. So two numbers that multiply together to give us 14 but add together to give us 8x. Well, I don't believe that we can do it because 2 times 7 is 14, but 2 plus 7 will be 9. So again, I think we're going to have to use the quadratic formula. What I'm trying to do here, let's set this equal to 0. I'm trying to find the critical points. So A is 2, B is 8, and C is 7. So if we jump into our calculator, put parentheses around our numerator, the formula says negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So it starts out the opposite of b. Well, the opposite of 8 is -8. And then I'll do subtraction first. And now it's the square root. B squared, well, I know I don't need a calculator for 8 squared. That's 64. Minus 4 times a, well, a is 2, times c, which is 7. Let's close that parenthesis because that's my numerator. Let's divide this by 4 because 2 times a, 2 times 2 is 4. Now I have my calculator fixed around to 1 decimal. So this x is an approximate solution to this equation is -2.7. Let's come in and instead of subtraction, let's change that in that numerator, change that to addition, and I get -1.3. Alright, so those are my critical points. Let's put those on a real number line. -2.7 is to the left of -1.3. We need to make a decision whether to have our critical points be included or excluded from our solution set. We determine that by looking at the original inequality. Since it is less than, it doesn't have the equal to portion, we leave these hollow. And these two numbers, critical points, divide my number line into 3 pieces, into 3 regions. So let's label these regions A, B, and C. So now I'm going to proceed in a table. A table is just an organized way for me to keep going. In this column, I'm going to show you my test point. In the middle column here, I'm going to write the original inequality, which was -2x squared minus 8x minus 7, and it said strictly less than 0. So this last column, what I'm going to call it, is the truth. And so now let's come over to this region A, and let's pick a test point in region A. So a number that's to the left of -2.7 would be -3. So let's take -2 times -3 squared. Well, -3 squared, -3 times -3 is going to be +9. And now -8 times the -3, well, that's going to be +24 minus 7. So the negative 2 times 9 is negative 18 plus 24 minus 7. We get a negative answer. And so negative 1 is less than 0, and that's true. So I know that I'm going to include all of the points in region A in my solution set. Let's pick a test point in region B, a number that's between negative 1.3 and negative 2.7. I'm going to pick negative 2. And if we replace x with negative 2, what do we get? Question is it less than 0? So the negative 2 squared is 4, and negative 2 times the positive 4 is negative 8. And then here, these two negatives, that's going to be a positive. 8 times 2 is 16, and then minus 7. That's equal to 1, and 1 is not less than 0. That's a false statement. So I'm not going to shade in. I'm not going to shade in any point in region B because negative 2 was picked at random. If I pick any other point in there in region B, it's going to be a false statement when I try to plug it into that inequality. So let's pick a point in test in region C. So something that's bigger than negative 1.3. Well, let's just try negative 1. So we've got negative 2 times negative 1 squared minus 8 times negative 1 minus 7. And the question is that less than 0? Well, negative 1 squared is positive 1 times the negative 2, that's negative 2. And then the double negative here, that's plus 8. 8 minus 2 is 6. And 6 minus 7 is a negative 1. And negative 1 is less than 0. So that's a true statement. So that means there was nothing special about picking negative 1. Any point that we would have picked in region C would have gave us the same result. So now we have a picture of our solution set, and they simply want us to write our final answer in interval notation. So let's describe this answer in interval notation. Now remember, it's just an approximation because we used a calculator to get a decimal number, but that's okay. I'm going to exclude this number because it was a strict inequality, and we had that it's strictly less than negative 2.7. And I'm going to use that union, that mathematical symbol for the word or is a union. We're bigger than negative 1.3 all the way to positive infinity. So there's my final answer. I hope this helps, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.